you go.
Yes. We're like after hours.
And then I was like, once I get there, I
I'm
So,
nice. I love that.
so welcome to our second installment of RVA So It All.
Can I sit on this? No.
So tonight we have some special guests that are going to be talking about their offerings with beginner sewing and all that they do and all that kind of stuff. We're going to ask them questions and put them on the spot. Simple questions. You're good. You're good.
Mark,
Yeah, like we go over one way or the other.
block. Keep it over there. You can
So
block this.
for next month's meeting, what we're going to do is we're going to do like a textiles 101 type of thing. And what we're going to do is I'm going to have people, Molly is going to talk to us about quilt fabric. And then I'll have my friend Kathy come and talk about drapery weight fabrics and all that's involved in that, because that's different than even what we do. And then I could talk about upholstery fabrics. And I could also talk about sequins, stretch sequins.
I'll bust mine out.
And then I could talk about stretch fabrics and that type of fabric. And then maybe we could talk Mark into coming back and he can talk about leather and maybe vinyl.
Yeah.
And you ain't got to talk forever about it, but just talk about all the properties of it, because I work with leather, but I don't know that much about it. At any rate, so that's going to be for next month. If anybody has any recommendations about things that you want to hear about or people you want to hear from, just give us a message on our Facebook page, or you can email us. The email is just like the Facebook page. It's rvasoitall@gmail.com. And I'll probably start putting a bunch of posts on there. It's like, come on, give us something, because this ain't about me. It's what y'all want and everybody else. Also, so for tonight, we're actually live streaming this for the first time, at least attempting to. You just have to keep it clean, Molly. You can't say any bad words.
How are you looking at me?
And I can't look at you. That's the bad thing, because if y'all know me, I'm like, every other word is F. So I can't get it wrong. Anyway, so there's all that. Now, after we get done with our group of speakers, we're going to do our little show and tell for tonight. At any rate, so this is in no particular order. Let's do Lisa first. So Lisa Hutchinson here owns Top Stitch Mending, and it's located up on Church Hill. She can tell you the address and all that, and she's going to tell us a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to ask her a question. So, yeah.
Can I sit on the stool? Do you want me to stand?
You can do whatever
Does it
you
matter?
want. You
Okay,
want to do
please
it.
Stand like
Okay.
a TED Talk.
And walk.
So tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, so I'm over in Church Hill, which Jonathan mentioned, but I started sewing when I was 11. My mom was a home ec teacher when they still have that. And
Should if they don't.
I don't know if they do.
I don't know if they
No, not
do.
anymore.
No?
Not like that.
Oh yeah, I feel like a lot of
wood shop
people who come in for
Ugh.
lessons say like, "Oh, we were supposed to, and it stopped the year
But it's
before I
true.
got
Yeah.
there."
I think middle school does a little bit. My daughter, her middle school, and she got a good job on her apron because I made it. But I made her cut it out though. I said she had to work for it. But yeah, I sewed it all together.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was a home ec teacher, and she also just grew up really poor, one of 6 kids, getting dresses thrown at her from like her cousins that are 6 feet tall. She's 5 feet, so she was like really young sewing. And then I was a hippie for Halloween one year when I was like in 4th grade or something. So I went into a vintage shop like way too young, and I was like, I like this. I want everything in here. My mom was like, we can't afford that. You can make those pants that you want to buy. It's like, we can. So that's what kind of like started that whole journey. She's like, we can make you huge, wide leg, rainbow colored, whatever. And then I was hooked. And I think the rest of my lessons, it's like, for me, I don't know if any of you have experience, but a family member teaching you can only last so long before it's like, So then she was like, I'm going to drop you off in the back room of Joann's when they had like 20 people, 20 seats and everything. So did that when I was a kid, and I would always just make my stuff through middle school, high school. And then I didn't want to go to college, and my parents were like, you have to. And so I was like I was like, I want to blow glass. And they were like, you can take a class in that, but no. So I got together with my art teacher, and was like, what can I do? And he was like, tell me what you like to do. And he was like, you could go to school for fashion design. I was like, what? That's a job. So then he like kind of took me aside, independent study, and he didn't know how to draw like fashion croquis or anything, but he bought all these books and set the time aside, and we were doing that. And I was like telling my mom, she's like, that's not a job. I've been sewing my whole life. Like, that's not a job. So he like came up with this list. I had to like sell them. I'm like, I could be a merchandiser. I could be this. So I studied fashion design at Drexel in Philly. My whole time there, everybody was like, that's not sellable. That's not sellable. That's not sellable. Nobody said like, come over here and go into costume or like, there are other things. So there were one or two teachers that were like, your stuff's good. It's just weird. So you'll have to find your way. And then this awesome teacher came in, and he had been in the fashion industry his whole life. So he was more industry than teacher. And he walked in and was just like, you all don't have hookups for internships? Look at this. And he like came in a classroom and was like, oh, you need to work with Heatherette. I don't know if any of you know Heatherette, but they are pretty funky. They don't exist anymore. They were like a small brand that did like crazy one-off dresses for socialites and like stuff. Not even everything was some of it was like glued. I don't know if you know Amanda Lepore. That was okay. So that was their bestie. So I made some things for Amanda Lepore and had to like sew her into them that night for a performance. So it was New York Club Kids had started a fashion design line essentially, and this was at the time when big fashion companies were trying to umbrella other companies under them that they didn't have. So like if you were a menswear, you were trying to like not buy up, but kind of buy it in a way, tuck it under your umbrella. So FUBU owned Kuji, the sweater company. They owned Drunken Monkey was the jean company. And then they like put Heatherette under there because it was like totally different from what they were doing. So I was working with them in an internship, but like FUBU was huge, but like in our little office that was like falling apart on the same floor as FUBU, there was like 5 of us. I was their first intern. So they were like, I got to go in all the cool stores in New York. They're like, here's this like card that says you're with a commercial company, go in like trim shops, dye shops. And when they found out I like dyeing stuff, I was like in the bottom floor with a Bunsen burner and vinegar. Like they're like, can you dye 300 shirts for our event tomorrow? I'm like, in this pot this big? And you know, I'm like, I don't know, 20, 19. I was like, yep, I'll do it. Like, whatever they asked. So that was really fun. And I also, because they were so small, got to do the like, oh, it's spring, summer 06, and we were supposed to have 25 looks and we have 23. Here's some fabric that we had printed. Make something now for tomorrow. So there was lots of like, it's very fun. So when I was there, we dressed Fergie. They had done Pam Anderson's dress when she married Kid Rock. I did stuff for Paris and Nikki Hilton under them. So they just were like in this crew. They would get famous people to walk for them. Naomi Campbell walked for us. I did not meet her. She's got her own rules. But amazing humans to be around. And I just loved their like, they were this huge company and they were like gluing stuff. And I was like, okay. So it wasn't like able to ever be mass produced. They were trying to like mass produce under Bergdorf, and they had like 1 or 2 lines, and then the economy crashed and they lost their funding and all the companies dropped the businesses that weren't self-providing. So I ended up in Japan teaching English because I graduated and everything was crashing. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I was on the end of like, they were just introducing computer courses. Like we got one like 3 months before graduation. And I was like, you want me to what? On what? How? So a few people who picked that up got hired because everything was moving into like tech packs and things like that. I'm not that person. I'm a tech dinosaur. I do everything with my hands. And so I was making clothes for so long, always out of secondhand fabrics and stuff, and just trying to have like the least amount of waste as possible. And they taught me like, you can't hurt to experiment. You can try whatever, and you might, get somewhere. So, I would like thrift, yardage. My senior collection was out of 60s and 70s fabric of stuff I thrifted at thrift store. So I was always figuring out how can I make clothes without waste? And at that time, I never figured it out. So when I got back from Japan, I just was like, you know what? I'm going to stop making clothes for a little bit until I can figure that out. And I dabbled in jewelry making. people spend money on jewelry and not clothes when an economy's crashed. It's a psychological thing. They think it's something small, even though it's expensive. They'll still purchase it over clothing. So I worked as a piece worker for all these companies in Los Angeles, and then I landed in Richmond because a friend lived here, and I was like, whoa, I could it's so cheap to live here. If you're not in New York and LA, you can have a sewing space. So that blew my mind. Love this city so much. And then I started working retail. I was at Lexus of Carytown with the formal gowns, zipping everybody up and down for 4.5 years. I can repair almost any zipper, even if you think it's broken, forever and ever. And I was like, I have something for you. Yeah. The hook and I would fall off of a formal gown when you're zipping. The mom's like, I want $100 off because this dress is so expensive. The owner would be like, this girl sews. Lisa, go put that back on. So, and then on the side, I started a little side hustle called Boom Bloomers. I would thrift pants that were high-waisted grandma that were beautiful fabric, but totally hideous in their cuts. And then I would rework them, shorten them, and put elastic in the waist. And I was just wearing mine around riding my bike everywhere, and people were like, where'd you get that? It's kind of like a skirt, but and so I started making those and popping up at markets. And then I was like, I want to scale this. And then I met with a score mentor, which I don't know if any of you know about score mentors here, but so I was just in I wasn't even doing it full time. The markets were not like they are now. I feel like there's 10 every weekend.
Whole entire business plan.
Yeah.
Market research, and I say, no, I don't want it this bad.
That's kind of what happened to me. We went into Panera, and I'm talking to the CFO of Costco, and he's like, "What's your retirement plan?" And I'm just like, I just want to make more shorts and sell them to people. So then I was doing that while I was at Lexus on the side, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna start a fashion line. I'm ready, and so I quit Lexus without any idea of what I was doing. And I was in my house for 2 months making patterns, talking to all these people of what was eco-friendly fabric, what technology had been made. And then I found out quickly, not a lot of technology has been made. They were still working on, and probably still are, this wool that's really lightweight. So athletic fabric can be made out of it, and it won't make you sweat, and it'll wick. And the lady was like, but we're 5 years away in the research. We have the farmer growing it, and it's $100 a yard because we're testing it. And I was just like, wow, everything is still really far away from where I thought it would be. So I started working at Halcyon Vintage, which was a place I was always shopping. I was friends with the owner, favorite store. And they were like, we need someone. And I didn't want to work at my favorite store. I thought it would ruin it. And they were like, just come one day a week. We only have 2 shop people. It's rare that we have an opening. So I got there, and the owner totally just pushed me. You have to know how to sew and iron to get that stuff on the floor. And I didn't mend before that. Nobody teaches you. No, and when I went to college, nobody taught you how to mend or alter after the garment's finished. In fashion design, you're altering it when it's in the pattern phase, or when it's in a muslin phase, but not once it's done. You're making it for a model, and that's it. It's that one person. Yeah. Did you have similar experience? Yeah. So she was like, I need you to fix this. So hook and eyes and buttons were all good. But when it was a jersey knit with a run down it, I was just like, how? And she's like, I don't know. You went to school for fashion, you sew. And I was like, so you don't care what I do? You're giving me, we had she had her grandmother's featherweight machine, drawer full of sewing stuff, and was just like, no, go for it, make it look as close to it did before. So I had 4 years there of just practicing on every lace, chiffon, and people would walk in and be like, what are you doing?
Man, that's the fire.
It was awesome. It was awesome. A lot of it was by hand, but I was just, it was crazy. I was like, okay, if you trust me, I'll figure this out. And then people would be like, what are you doing? I've got this thing. Will you do it? Where do we go? And then the owner and I both realized nobody knew where to take their stuff, and just people 10 years or younger than me didn't even know that some had never been to a dry cleaner, and most of them didn't know dry cleaners did alterations. They did not understand that was could be visited on any corner there was a dry cleaner. So I was like, okay. She's like, make a business card, put it in the store. You can meet people here after your shift. And I was like, really? So it started out of my house, and I had a couch that I sold and bought an industrial machine instead. So it was just like, okay, I'll try this. Got this job, and it'll be a side thing. And it picked up so fast that it was like crazy. So at first we offered alterations, but mostly I did that because people didn't know what mending was or they hadn't heard of it. So we had to do that to make ends meet. But my ultimate goal, because a lot of people do alterations already, was to kind of focus on things that people weren't doing and then refer people to friends and anybody that was doing alterations that wanted more work. So I was doing that, and people were like, I want to learn how to do what you're doing. I was like, oh, we could do that. So then it got split to like I was doing sewing lessons or mending. And I would go to people's houses for their lessons. I was just telling May. And it was, it's awkward, right? You don't know what you're getting when you go to someone's house. Sometimes it's fine. And sometimes they have 3 cats that are climbing on the machine while you're trying to sew. You're just like, oh, okay. Didn't know I should be asking those questions. So you're like learning as you go. And then I'd, forget a seam ripper and they didn't have one. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. But I've always done privates in my living room, and I'm really passionate about teaching people one-on-one. I think they're really likely to stick with it if they learn one-on-one or small groups. So then during the pandemic, everybody was going back to work from home, and I was in my living room, and I had a roommate, and the house is 660 square feet, who is now not going to work either. And I was like, I need a space outside. So my friend was very generous. He had a place shared office in Scott's Addition. Everybody was working from home. It was completely empty. And the bottom was under construction with a jackhammer. And he was like, we've got this cool room in the back. Nobody's in it. You can stay in it for free while they're jackhammering and finishing the basement. If you like it, you can stay. And I did that, and we kind of had to shift to making masks because people just stopped bringing us stuff. So we survived by making masks, asking people to choose how much they wanted to donate for them. And then we would in turn donate masks to RVA, the Fulton Community Center, any nonprofits that needed masks. So we survived that way. I had one person helping me sew. She was pregnant, so she immediately started sewing from home just because we didn't know what was going on. And we just created this assembly line with like 4 or 5 other sewists that needed some work, and we would drop the things off. Somebody would cut the elastic, somebody would, and made that work. And then I was getting ready to move across town to Church Hill, and it was just very, very, very lucky. I had a friend with a space in Church Hill. I didn't know, had left that space and was like renting it to a writer's group in transition. And she had joined under Studio 2-3 because what she was doing really fit under there. And then she was like, hey, the person doing the writer's group is like going back to teach. Do you want to take over my lease? And I was just like, wow, that space is beautiful. I taught there for her nonprofit. So it's a little carriage house, and that's where we are now. I think it was converted to commercial in the 80s to be a pharmacy. I've heard so many things that it's been pharmacy, Reiki, PT. So then we were able to like spread out, take on more mending, add small group classes, and we just specialize in reuse. So we don't throw anything away. We try to encourage other people, whether they're new to sewing or like really seasoned, to like think about what they're doing with their scraps, or run a class that kind of solves that for you in a way, possibly. And just like in any way we can help keep stuff out of the landfill. And also we do a lot of family heirlooms. So it's, we do everything from like your $10 Target tank top that has like a tiny hole in it to like your great grandfather's Letterman sweater that somebody didn't store properly. It's covered in mothballs. We do denim darning, reknitting, kind of anything. If you email us a picture, we get a lot of people that have already tried a bunch of dry cleaners that have told them no, and we're people's last stop. Some people drive down from more recently Northern Virginia, and I think there's a lot of people there that do stuff, but for some reason they're either saying they don't do that material, or I guess there's maybe not a lot of people that do moth holes. We get those shipped to us. We do mail-in mending. We get those shipped to us from like Canada, Florida, everywhere, and we do those. That's for people usually who want it invisibly done, but we offer visible and invisible, and so these are my jeans I've been working on off and on for like 5 years now. I just wear them, and then when they get a new rip, I do another one. And then we have a 4-week class where you can learn all of these stitches. You can come each week, so you can like bring your favorite thing and work on it every week, or you can make sample patches if you want to practice before you do it. And this is my most recent project, which was my partner was like cleaning out his closet. I was like, okay, we'll cut all this stuff up for rags. I'm like, that is a 90s champion turquoise with the purple. That's not getting cut up for rags, but the seams were like totally broken, the back. So it's also, I'm gonna eventually solve the sleeves and the hem that are coming out, but I just love the continuation of working on something, the story it creates. I love hearing the story behind the thing someone's bringing me, whether it's just like something, I got this at Target my first year in college. This is, the strap broke for the first time 10 years. Like we are a judgment-free stitchery. Like we fix people's bras that the underwire's poking out and it's like they can't find that size anymore. We do whatever somebody wants, and teach class in that as well. And so we no longer offer alterations as a surface, but we do offer as a class, like how to hem, and we offer private lessons because a lot of people have specific things, and it works really well in one-on-one because then it's like full attention is going to you, the items in your closet, and then you feel like you've learned something, but you're also hopefully taking something with you that fits better. So that's where we're at right now. We just got a grant last year for Richmond that's was available for Churchill, Union Hill, and Fulton Hill businesses to apply for. So we want to be more accessible and we want to have more community stuff going on. So we were able to get 4 student sewing machines. So that's not a barrier. You don't have to have your own. We have student stations. So 4 people can like easily sew on a machine at the same time. We're going to add in community sewing hours later this year, which will be, you already know how to sew, it's low cost, come use the machine or the cutting table. We just hear from people they do not have the space in their house. Yeah, or they have 3 cats or whatever it is, or they want the accountability. That's what I want. I want to meet new people, and I love sewing in community and events like this, just talking about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sitting here, I'm like, you're our people.
It's so cool. I mean, you're sewing something and there's 5 ways to mend something. I don't know if it's that same way with every like niche of sewing, but it's like you can get stuck in your head like, oh, I always do it this way. And you can ask the person next to you, how would you fix this? And they will blow your mind with some like, and you're like, that was the first thing you thought of? Like, and then you just immediately gain a friend, a new technique, and like just something else in your tool belt. So that's like, my passion is like, let's get people together. And then the last thing I'll say is we do a few free events as well that we would love for you to attend, which is a fabric swap we just started last month. We're going to try to do quarterly. That's at the studio in Churchill. And then we have a Mend Friend meetup, which is just bring your project that is unplugged. We don't have room for machines at it, but embroidery, knitting, crochet, mending, sewing, and come sit around with a bunch of people and sew. It was in our studio and we outgrew it very quickly. We only have 13 chairs total and it was tight with the 13, but it kind of sold out. It's free, but you register, like filled up every month. So last month we did it at the Institute of Contemporary Art in their cafe, which is just beautiful, an amazing light. And really good food at the cafe. So we had over 20 people, I think around 20, show up. Some pre-registered, some didn't. So that's gonna be every 3rd Saturday, 12 to 2 at the ICA from now till the end of the year. So come hang out with more of your people.
I was hanging out in Churchill on Saturday.
You were?
Yeah, they had a great time up there at the festival.
Oh yeah, we had an event on Saturday. We didn't get that many people in because of that, but I went and got gelato there right
A lot
now.
of dogs. A lot of dogs. Oh my God, there's dogs.
Yes.
Yeah, so-
Yes, I love that park. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
Well, we're looking at left and straight.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Thanks.
Extra fashion people thought I was the only one. Yeah, we have another one, and she's touched Amanda Lepore.
Many
I'm
times.
envious. If you look her up online, you'd be like, she's a character. Okay, so Molly and Charity, y'all want to talk?
Okay, yeah.
All right, come on. So Molly and Charity are from All Things New Sewing and Service over on the Lothian area. Lothian Tri. So talk about how y'all's got going and what you do and what you offer. And
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm like, oh my god, Lisa's so cool. I'm not as cool as Lisa. So, hi, I'm Molly. I'm Molly Ann McKay. I am the master tech at All Things New Sewing and Service, and this is Charity. We're co-owners of our little store. We opened about a year ago now. Charity opened it on her own. She had contacted me. Yeah. She contacted me like in probably like December 23. And she said, I'm looking for somebody that's going to teach me how to service a sewing machine. Lisa did the same thing. So just so you know, it's not just one person that's ever contacted me, but a lot of people would come and like, because I was at Scrap for a really long time and I was doing all of their sewing machine service. So it was really a thing for me. The passion was keeping the machine in your hands.
Yeah.
And it's still our passion. Our real main goal is to keep that same sewing machine in your hands as long as possible. So my goal at Scrap was to keep those machines keeping on going, because if you can buy a $50 machine that's working, then you're going to learn, because you're not spending $1,000 on a machine and no one's pushing you to do that. So our big thing was like, you know, at Scrap, I was like, oh, I'm going to keep all these machines going. Well, that got real old when it was like no money and I was like starving, and I was driving 45 minutes out here from Dinwiddie just to come to work. And that didn't work for me. So Charity had called, it was probably December 23, and asked if I would teach her how to service machines. And I kind of like was like, yeah, sure. Because I was like looking for somebody consistently that was ready to like do it on their own, because there are so many men in sewing machine service, and
they don't sew.
they don't sew.
Most have not met one.
So you can fix a machine without sewing, but not know that it doesn't really work. So if you don't really sew on it, you don't really know if it's working the way it's supposed to. Which is like whatever, right? But okay, that sucks. So Charity asked if I would teach her. She was already sewing. She was already teaching some students. She was teaching students at like the library down the street from her house. And she was really wanting to do this. And I was like, sure, I'll teach you. So I kind of like took her.
Oh yeah, it was like very life changing.
I threw her into fire and was like, we're gonna do all these like really broken things. Yeah, I really did. And I was like, okay, so we're gonna do all this crazy stuff. And then she was like, do you think I could do this for like actual money? And I was like, why not? So she opened the business about a year ago, officially. And she was doing it out of the kitchen table. And it was insane. And so I guess in December
it was
of this
December
year,
10th.
Yes, it was.
December
It was December 10th of this year. And we kind of got together, and she had this wreck where she had like hit her head in this wreck. And she called me and was like, there are 23 sewing machines on the floor in the living room. 29 sewing machines on the floor of the living room, and I'm going to have to make a decision. I either call these people and tell them to come pick them up and tell them sorry, or I need somebody to help me. So I called 2 of my apprentices who are still apprentices with us, and we took 29 machines to my house in Dinwiddie with 3 cars, and we did them in one day.
Yep.
And we had a sewing machine party in the front room at my house, and we did all of the sewing machines with the big dogs and the 9 cats. And all 6 kids, and we stood there and did all those machines, and I looked at her and was like, okay, so where do we go from here? And what I said was, we can't do this out of the living room anymore. But we got to step it up. So that was December 10th of this year. And we were calling around trying to find a place to go. And that was in January, I guess. And we called Blake from Sew Snips, and we're like, hey, we're kind of thinking about going somewhere in Midlothian. And we would like to open in Midlothian because we find that to be pretty central in Richmond because people don't go across the river here. So we said, we'll put this in Midlothian because it's close to Charity and she's still not driving. So for us, it was like going to be close and we could be around the corner from her. And I was willing to drive that far because I was already driving that far to everywhere. So I said, we'll put it in Midlothian. And we talked to Blake. And Blake said, the conversation was going, hey, if we do this, would you like to put some fabric in our new store? And it went from, let's put some fabric in our new store to, why don't you put your new store in my store? So we talked to him on Thursday and opened on Friday. Moved in on Friday, did our first service Friday afternoon, and we're down to like 63 machines that first month that we serviced. So we are now servicing, I think there are 74 machines in the store right now that we're servicing right now. We have moved something like 190 or something through the store since we got here. So it's mostly word of mouth.
A lot of word of mouth, a lot of Google searches. I know for us, our big thing is, and what we hear a lot is, well, I went to this other place and they were like, your machine's broken or your machine's not worth fixing. You need to buy this $500 floor model. I know that look. And it was just, we just heard a lot of that. And sometimes, despite our very best efforts, and we do make every effort, the machine is just not fixable. And in that case, we wanted a way to offer someone something comparable to what they had. If they loved vintage, we wanted them to be able to have a vintage machine that was serviced, that worked properly, that we knew was in good shape, because we are really passionate about the human cost of textiles, the human cost of sewing, and just the human cost of the industry itself, the environmental impact that textiles and sewing have, that fast fashion have, that, just the millions of pounds of negative space that get thrown into the landfills, and people have no idea that they are walking around wrapped in plastic. And just this idea of, it's twofold, because if I can empower you to learn your machine, if I can empower you to understand that the machine itself is savable, I can empower you to understand that other things around you are savable. And all of a sudden, you're no longer looking at everything and everyone around you as a commodity that you can use and throw away. And it's life-changing in so many aspects. And
you didn't know you were going to church today.
It's really important to me. Like, it's really important to me that children understand that they can do it. And so many times we hear, I've had several students, when you were talking about teaching one-on-one, I'm very passionate about that, because I've had students that don't perform well for whatever reason in a group setting. Neurodivergent students, dyslexic students, ADHD, children that need to sing loudly while they're learning. And it doesn't mean that they're not paying attention, because I have a student that she would just be up and down and organizing my pens and doing all that stuff. But when it came time to sew, she had, her talent was breathtaking, but she'd been turned away from other sewing instructors and other sewing studios in the area because she was loud, because she was busy, because you have to stay on top of her to get it through. But she loves the craft. And to be able to offer that, to see an adult student who went in and thought, oh, this is so complicated. And I always tell people when they come into the shop, that aha moment, that they realize that they can do it, live for that. You know, it's just realizing that you can. And it's powerful because that translates into other areas of their life. And that's just, I don't know. And when you were talking about community, like, I want everybody to meet everybody, you know, because if I can say to someone, you know, that's not something that I do, but I can send them to you. Yeah. Or, you know, we're not in that neck of the woods, I'm going to send them somewhere else. You know, I'm going to do everything that I can to lift everyone up, because the more interconnected that people are and the more you serve one another, everyone lives better. You know, like, everyone, you have all of a sudden these connections and people aren't as lonely. And that's
so we have this giant space. We've got 3,000 square feet of space that we share about 500 square feet with Blake now. He's moved back into the building a little further back, and we are now doing about 2,500 of that square space now on our own. Which gives us the space to teach up to like 24 students at a time, which we do not do. I teach 8 students at a time tops, because we feel like that interpersonal communication helps with people learning better. So our biggest thing is that communication. We have a lot of events where we just open it up for $10 for you guys to do open sew. And that is my favorite thing to do. You were talking about like having that community event. Our very first open sew, there were 3 little ladies in the back room, and they were sewing and sewing and sewing, and it got really quiet. And I went back there, and all 3 of those ladies are standing around this one girl, and they're just holding each other.
Yeah,
and they're just crying. And I was like,
healing.
What is this? They were healing. There was like, you know, there was that moment where you're like, this is why I do what I do. And it's always going to be that way. So we started this with this idea to lift charity up. I mean, it really wasn't me that needed to be lifted up. My husband had a real rocky time in January where he wasn't sure he was going to have a job with the U.S. government. And we were not sure that he was going to be able to even like go to work again. So we were like, oh my God, I better do something different. And when she needed help, we were able to just kind of pull our way that way.
Yeah.
And it worked. So we do have a Necky dealership that is ours. We're selling, it's kind of that midline sewing machine that isn't like super expensive, but it's not super cheap also. And like it's well built. It's well built. So there's my big thing. So that's why we chose to do them. The other reason we chose to do them is they didn't force me into a contract saying I would try to upsell you guys into $120,000 worth of sewing machines. So I never do that.
Yeah.
So
I just wanted something like if somebody, their machine was gone, but they didn't want a vintage machine, we wanted to be able to say, well, here's something we know for a fact. Like, you don't have to go buy a $250 Singer heavy duty that's, you know, got out of the box a broken reverse. Like, you know, here's something that we know actually works. We've been inside of them, you know, and that being a technician, like, I used to have this like dream machine. It was like a Brother NQ 1400E. And I was like, oh, this machine, you know, and I've been inside the machine. I've touched the machine, and I do not want the machine.
It's poop. No, I'm kidding.
But it's just, and
but once you've been inside of 1,000 different sewing machines, you get to kind of
that's my point.
Know where you are and what the differences in our machines are. But our real motto is that it does not matter if you are sewing on your $25 machine that you bought from scrap, or if you are sewing on a $25,000 Bernina from, you know, wherever. The world makes beautiful things on beautiful people. So it is all in your hands. It's in your power, and it's in your foot. It is not in the machine itself. So that's our big thing. So we just really have this kind of, you know, I guess it's a different kind of view, because I'm not trying to sell you or anything. Definitely
No,
not
we're just
sell
trying to keep you
anything.
sewing.
We just want to keep people safe.
I say they have really quick turnaround too.
We do. And the reason that we have quick turnaround is there are 2 of us. Well, there's 3 of us. We also have Gracie's part-time. So there's 3 of us that are in there all the time. We only work 3 days a week. And I know that's like annoying for some people, but I don't care. So it's Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And those are our 3 days that we work. And I'm only open those 3 days for a reason. It's so that I can be in there and work without having people in my ears. Because people kind of fangirl a little bit sometimes, and they want to like watch me and talk to me, and it gets a little bit nerve wracking. So for me, I'm like very much an introvert. So I'm like, no, thank you.
I'm not.
Charity's not. So she answers the phone, and I was laughing because somebody the other day was like something about, I talked to Charity on the phone, and I was like, yeah, hi, I can help you. And they were like, who are you? And I thought it was so weird because I was like, oh, okay. They don't know who I am. It's cool. It's really cool. I was like, I don't know. I just work here.
Such a trip.
So, do you have questions?
Oh, I was like, what's your turnaround time?
Our turnaround time is less than 2 weeks. Right now, it's a week.
Oh.
Yeah. Right now, it's a week.
I can honestly say they do great work.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We try really hard, and I really try really hard not to have to like say, oh, it doesn't work. But I also
That's
am not
really
going
a
to tell
nice
you I
last
can fix
resort.
something and then come back and be like, now it's $600. Like, I'm never going to do that to somebody. So we always call you ahead of time if there's something that's like going to be more than what we normally would be. So.
And then you offer classes too, and you have
We do.
summer camp for kids coming up.
We do
I
have
think
a
it's
summer
awesome.
camp, guys. We have
And
a
I
summer
wish my
camp for
kid was old
kids.
enough.
Ew.
I love that.
I love my kids.
We do. We have a summer camp for kids. It's like 1 to 5, and then the morning camp's like 8 to noon.
Yeah.
8 to noon. Yeah. So it's kind of like it's going to be like week-long sessions.
Yeah, it's
$300. You drop your kid off, and we keep them alive. They're going to do a bunch of projects that whole week. So they're going to come back in and do like 4 different projects. Then the last day they have to like finish up their projects. And then at the very end, they're going to have like a fashion show for their mommies and their daddies. So we're like super excited about that. And the kids are going to have a blast.
Yeah, and we have Amanda Campbell coming in.
Yeah,
on that
Amanda
too.
Campbell's doing
So,
that one from
she and I are
Biz Arts,
gonna- yeah.
and she's going to also be doing some pattern making
yeah,
classes that are
she's
fun.
hair injecting.
So our biggest thing is that we like to really like bring in other people that want to teach. So if you guys want to teach something, tell me, let me bring you in. I don't do that for free. I pay you because I did that for free for a long time, and I don't do that anymore. And I don't want anybody else to feel like you are like being, you know, put through the ringer for free. So we want to make sure that you guys get like money for that. And yeah, we're doing a lot of that kind of teaching. There's all sorts of stuff that
We
we're
have
doing.
a lot of brand new instructional classes. I teach our intro to sewing, our pillowcase class, and our intro to paper class. And I love that. But we also offer, like, I feel like for us, what we bring to the table that you may not get from other sewing studios in the area are things like our scarves. Where are our scarves?
They're in the pile over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right here in the most awkward way possible. Great. I always joke because when I teach and I have to, like, Molly comes around and we both kind of matriculate in the classroom, and this is my like Barbie barf. So my Aunt Carol actually teaches this class. She calls this Jackson Pollock lace, and this is a scrap buster, like your little pieces that are too small, but again, because we don't want plastic everywhere in the environment, you can actually take this and yarn scraps, ribbon scraps, all kinds of scraps, and we teach you how to make this fabric, which is really what this is. And you can make it any kind of way that you want to. And so this is something that we offer. We offer cosplay classes. We offer advanced garment making, corsetry. rope bowls. I mean, it's just really all kinds of.
Quilting.
And yes, she does the quilting.
But we
because I'm
definitely
terrible
do
at it.
like your beginner classes with beginning sewing and with beginning serger. They bring their own machines in, and that's real hard to teach if you are not a tech, especially in a group of like 8 to 9 people. It would be real hard to teach, and that's why those classes are always taught by one of us. So that's the crazy stuff is when you have somebody who brings in and they're like, oh yeah, I brought my grandmother's FOF, and you're like, oh yeah. I'm like, and this is why like I have to tell like my other like instructors, I'm like, this is why I teach this class, because you would not know how to thread a FOF if you were not a tech, because it actually threads backwards. so I'm like, this is fun. So that's kind of our thing, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have any other questions, I will say I used spray basting on that, and I will never do that again. That project, because it did not. I'm like, I need to soak that thing again. That's why hers is softer. But yeah, just I mean, it's awesome. I will say, no, I'm not gonna say that. We're good.
All Things New Sewing and Service, and it is at 541 South Lake Boulevard in Richmond.
Yeah. Oh, I
Midlothian.
will say this. Even if you want to just come in and visit, like you don't have necessarily a machine that you want to service, or you're not there for like, you know, a class specifically, like just come in and say hi. That's another thing that like, when you come into our business, we want you to feel like you're coming to visit friends. And I know you hear that a lot, but like really that's what it is. Like, I want to hear how your day is going. I want to know what you're making. You know, I want to talk to you. Versus like, you know, I don't know, other places you go. So we're not there just to make money with the service that we provide. Like, we're here to provide for the community with heart. Like, that's something that we're really passionate about, both of us. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
I know. I don't have a fashion degree. I just have a nursing.
That's good, because if we stab ourselves, she can fix it.
I know.
Yeah.
Joss.
All right, so next up we have May Gonzalez. Come on, girl. Her company is called So Brave, and she's over at Mechanicsville, so we got all 3 sides of the thing.
All 3 sides of the river, so no one has to go across.
Hello. Hi. I'm Kaylin. I own So Brave Sewing Studio. Where I started was trigger warning. I have a lifetime story. I'll spare you all the details. Not all of them, but where I started was in 2011. I started hand sewing pillows, and people started supporting me. And so I was making like initial pillows, and my mother-in-law was like, girl, do you know you can get a sewing machine and do that? I didn't know. So I started dabbling in that, and then in 2012, I became pregnant with my first son, Caleb, and we lost him to stillbirth at almost 32 weeks. So I'm a little nervous, Lord. I'll calm down. But yeah, during that grief, I started to practice on my sewing machine a little more. And so that really helped me during my grief. Grief never stops, but you know, it really helped me feel human and stuff like that. Then I had my second son, like shortly after we became pregnant with him. We tried for him, and we couldn't afford like what is the name of it? They were little leather shoes. I couldn't afford those for my baby, so I was making like little vinyl ones or felt. And so I just kept exploring and started selling like clutches and the baby shoes. And so we would donate $1 from each sale to Noah's Children, because that was a service we were offered, but we didn't get to use it, you know. They do amazing things. So yeah, I started my Etsy shop. Just I went to the school of YouTube, so it was prior to TikTok, so I had to watch whole videos. Oh, Lord. But yeah, so now I have my youngest now, technically, Micah, and then just I was in foster care. So like my dream, once I started like mastering sewing, I'm still learning, I'm not a master at it. But I was like, I want to give back and teach foster kids at some point in my life. 2019, traveled to Texas and Puerto Rico, living our best lives. COVID. So I was like, Lord. And then my youngest, Sage, he got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes during the pandemic. So we were trying to stay out of the hospital. The boy got type 1 diabetes. So I realized after COVID subsided a little bit. I mean, it's still here, but anyway, I was like, well, we're living. I said, I'm freaking live out my dreams. That's because I was a stay-at-home mom and Etsy hustler for a while. I was like, I want to teach sewing lessons. So 2021 in December, by then, I bought 3 sewing machines, registered for my LLC. Yeah, I forget. I run all that stuff by myself and my website. And ended up finding a cool studio that didn't charge a lot. And started a sewing business. And then once I got my website business started to pick up and stuff, I think like a year in, rent doubled. I said, Lord, I'm not there yet. So let me pack up my stuff. So then I decided, I knew a girl who runs a hair studio out of a shed on her property. And so she gave me the rundown, didn't hold anything. I shared all the information. And so I went to Hanover, got my shed approved. We did get a line of credit through our equity. We used equity on our house for it, but it is what it is. It's a wonderful little place. But yeah, I've just build. And I was going to do foster care, like free lessons. Didn't occur to me, kids are not in a home long enough to get established. And you know what I'm saying? So I was like, well, let's switch it up. And some of my friends who would rather give back that way versus tithe or something, started donating money. So I will buy some sewing machines on the marketplace. And if they work, I'll clean them out and make sure that they run properly. And we'll do giveaways every once in a while to give back that way. I also give back by giving free sewing lessons, like if someone can't afford it. So we just do that in the background, but it's been a dream. Like sewing saved me a lot. Like there's no one reason people sew. Everyone has their heart why they do it, but now I teach one-on-one lessons mostly because I've done more than 3 and I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. I don't want to just take your money and then y'all know what I mean. All of y'all were preaching today, but yeah, so I'm like one-on-one, where you can bring whatever brand sewing machine you have. I'll look it up and we'll tinker with it. If I don't know, I'll Google and YouTube. And but yeah, so one-on-one, that class is called Becoming Besties with Your Sewing Machine. And then I have a project class where we'll do 2 hours of like a tote or something. And if they have experience, I'm really flexible. So I'm like, if I could do it to be able to teach you, then yeah, we'll do it. So I'm not very strict. Then I have a homeschool option that's like 5 hours. Try not to overdo it, but it's like I literally walk through a whole pattern with you and we sew it together. But it's also a homeschool option. So if kids want to come in for 1 hour a day, we'll do whatever we can in that time. But yeah, I've also had summer school. And I find that you guys were like really like preaching, because I don't know why I'm using that word. Because I tend to get like neurodivergent, just anyone who thinks different or, you know, feels different. And I'm like, they feel comfortable. You know, y'all know what I'm talking
It's the
about.
same thing.
And I'm like, I just want it to be a safe place where you can ask questions. Because I've heard people say, like, I didn't feel comfortable raising my hand, or they didn't answer my question. I didn't hear that from y'all, though, just so you know. It wasn't your businesses. But it makes me happy, you know, because I realized I learned different. As an adult, there's no shame nowadays as opposed to like the 90s. So I realized, I'm like, I get you. Like, we're on the same page. But yeah, I have done summer courses, like summer camp. It just depends, you know, because I have my 2 kids. The one with the type 1 diabetes, that's a whole job. I'm a pancreas on the side. So but I wanted to show y'all like just some of the cool things. Like, after I have so much artwork from these kids, and like at the end of the day, we do make a profit, you know, but what matters is how people leave and that they were seen and heard. And you also need to keep the doors open and the lights on, so I get it. But I mean, come on. But I like to, you know, and even with adults, I like to encourage them, like, just like you said, they come in and they're like, this is so intimidating. I'm like, trust me, by the end, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I didn't even know. Excuse me. But, yeah, and then they leave with like a little sticker because I'm a little crafty. So, yeah, that's so brave. And that's so brave came from Caleb. So that way he's ingrained in just about anything I do, you know. My boys know it, you know. So sewing could be a really good thing. And yeah, so I like to give back and also teach together. And I'm so glad I met Jonathan and all y'all. I'm so glad I met y'all. But yeah, I'm in Mechanicsville. The shed is on my property, and just make it work. I hope I covered everything.
Got it, girl. You forgot to tell me you work for me now.
I work for Jonathan.
I didn't know why she worked for you. She had no idea. I said, she's like, I didn't even know you.
This place is so comfortable. Oh my god. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
So much. God, that was fantastic. Okay, so.
I'm sure I skipped a lot.
You need to show them pictures of your.
I need to. Huh? You need to show them pictures of your room.
Yeah.
She has the cutest setup.
Okay, so our next little segment here is a show and tell. And just so y'all know, we're live streaming up on YouTube right now. So if you don't want to be on YouTube, then don't come over here.
Your voice will be that.
Well, your voice will, but we're not going to know. They're not going to know who you are.
That's wonderful.
Okay, so
27, I think, because I just joined.
Wow.
okay, so here's my little show and tell. So my background is in fashion design because I have a degree in fashion design from VCU. And so I like to sew garments and costumes whenever I can, but I don't do that much anymore because I have this. So I do a thing every year called the Custom Workroom Conference that I teach at. And every year they have a cocktail party. And so if anybody knows me, you know I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up. And if the rest of you is going to show up, you better show up or sit on down. So the first year I made a short sequin jacket, and they were like, you can really sew. You can do more than the slip covers. And so this was the second year. So you can see I pattern match everything.
Oh, wow.
Like, so these huge frogs came from Jeff over at Amazon. Like most people, me and Jeff are like this, and so the French. But this fabric is technically a two-way stretch sequin, and so I had to, and we'll talk more about this next month. But I had to hand baste it onto a back fabric so that it didn't bag away.
Oh.
Every single piece I cut out has like layers, and just sewing by hand. So it took a while. So we have our nice little facings down here, so you don't see anything that you shouldn't. And I'm not going to suck it all in and button it up. But But see how it's all symmetrical and everything?
Yes.
It's all about planning.
Oh, so beautiful.
I'm gonna pick your brain about that lining. Someone just asked me about lining.
And look, see, look.
Oh, we fight.
That's
How many hours did it take you to get to that point?
I have no idea. I don't pay attention to that because I'm so sporadic when I'm working on something.
Mhm.
I'll go and work for an hour and then I'll go to sleep. And then I'll go down 2 nights later and work for 3 hours.
Mhm.
But it took a while.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
I'll bring my other one next
Work
month,
of
one from
art.
last
Cool.
year, next time, and you'll be like, it's even crazier.
I mean, Tom had to go with it. That's it.
Wow.
That's right.
Anyway, so there's me. All right, who else got a show and tell? Anybody got a good one?
I do.
Come on, girl.
So I made this blouse.
Beautiful.
I mostly sew with commercial or indie patterns. Pattern making is something that really much fascinates me, but when I'm sewing something, I don't want to do like the thought of doing a bunch of mock-ups is like, I'm like, wow, that's a lot more work. So I think it's just like a commercial Vogue pattern. And I wore this to a work event recently, and I was like, proof that I made it because I ran a snaps. I miscalculated. You know, when the little clamp snap things, I
Yeah.
made, so my coworkers are expecting little girls, so I made them little, I love making kids clothes. It's just, you can do it in like one sitting. It's so fast. But I did like snaps all around the inside of the onesie, and I did not anticipate how many snaps that was going to need, and so I ran out of snaps for my blouse. But I really like this one. I use a lot of fabric from Fabric Mart, just dead stock. It was my first time working with a polyester. I usually really love a woven linen or cotton. So cutting everything out and it slipping around was very stressful. And then not being able to press anything and have nice little crisp lines was also stressful. And I was like, cool. But it's a little bit more forgiving in the drape. So that was really nice. And then I love that it's a hidden placket situation here.
Oh,
and I just did
wow.
snaps as well because I did not think that I would be able to get enough buttonholes with the integrity of the fabric. But I think it ended up working with the type of like print that's on the fabric.
Yeah, looks great.
But this was my practice. I'm in a wedding in a few months, and I'm doing my own bridesmaid dress, and I'm planning on doing it out of like a polyester satin and organza.
Oh.
And I'm very, very nervous. And I was like, oh, it can't be that bad. And I sewed this, and I was like, it's going to be bad. But this is my most recent one. This is me stepping into a little bit more workwear, and I want to do a little bit more evening wear.
Wow, great.
Awesome.
Great job.
Thank you.
You need one of those like white feet, the little slip feet.
Oh,
It'll make it easier.
okay. I'm going to talk to you.
Okay, I'm gonna put Mimi on the spot next. Okay, so Mimi works with us in our shop, and so she's been with me for, I guess, about a year, about a year. So when she came to me the first day, I was working on the slip cover, and she didn't even know what a slip cover was, did you? And so I was like, okay, so here's where we are. We got to hem this thing. So I put it on the table over here, and I said, now take this. We don't usually use Sharpie, but it's all we could do because that's all we could see. I said, now I want you to take the Sharpie, and I want you to mark a half an inch away from this line, and then cut this thing off. Every single one of y'all would have been like, hell no. Ain't doing that. What did she say? Okay, here, give it here. So, she's been doing a lot of slip covers lately because for some reason they're coming in. So this is one that she's worked on last week or so. And this is one of 8 chairs, right? You know?
Wow.
So
The skeleton.
I mean,
That looks really good.
look how nice and look at all
Clipping
that.
those curves and clipping those curves.
Goes the I mean, it's fabulous.
Under the wonderful guidance of Jonathan. I mean, yeah, this is
So it's gonna have some covered buttons here. The designer has to bring the buttons or the fabric for the buttons this week. But I mean, it matches the whole way.
Yeah, it's really nice working with Jonathan because like a lot of times he gets all the work orders and we'll talk about it, and he'll just be like, okay, go do it, and I'll come back and I'll be like, okay, what were you thinking here, and he'll explain to me, and I'll just go and do it, and it's really nice. It's like a lot of check-ins, lots of one-on-one, but like, you know, he trusts me and I got them all done.
What's nice is you make one and you can make all of them.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Turning the scallops out hurt my hands, but but it was like
They
a
look
new
so
a new
good.
thing that I learned how to do, and now I'm like, bring on the scallops.
Bring on the scallops.
Bring on the scallops.
And I mean, she even finished that blue slip cover back there today. I got it about 3/4 of the way. I'm like, you. And I said, this is what you do, and she just did, and it's done. Yeah. So anyway, there's Mimi's work.
I told one of my students that there's still straight lines when they're curved
Yeah.
because you're just moving the fabric to make it straight, and they were like, "What is wrong with you?" I was like, "I am a quilter, and that is still a straight line."
Well, and plus that when you're sewing a scallop and you go to a point, you don't go to a point. You go,
No.
you come over,
You
you
go
go
to a
2
pivot.
stitches,
Yeah.
and then you go back down.
Yeah.
And Mimi's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Just do
Yeah,
it."
but I
She
learned
just
I
do it.
learned so many new things in here, and it's so cool because then I'll be able to apply that, and I won't have to ask those many questions the next
But
time.
if you do,
so.
just do. 'Cause,
Yeah, right.
Meggie will tell you, she's, I get questions all day. I love it. It's the best thing ever. All right, who else got some show and tell?
Well, this is a cross pattern that I'm working on right now, and so far I'll finish the upper part. So I just wanted to show you that I'm working on it.
Beautiful.
But I think the teal turquoise color is too bright.
No.
What do you guys
No,
think?
I think you're good.
It draws that other lighter
Yeah.
turquoise from the corner.
Yeah.
I was thinking about redoing it because the color is so bright.
No.
No,
Keep
that's
going.
good.
Keep going.
Oh,
You
you
like
like
it?
it? Because it would have been
Okay.
kids.
It's really
I mean, if she wants to pull it, she just has to pull. You know, it's not that big.
Okay.
For you, I'm like, we're halfway through.
Well, thank you.
It's just
So-
themes.
so-
It's all right.
So I'm working on this. Yes.
Show it back. I'm looking at the back
Yeah,
over
go
here.
back.
Look at the back of this thing.
Oh my god.
I mean, stop now. Look at it.
Lisa
I made
is
some
like a master
mistakes.
at pressing.
She's
Really good at pressing.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Mark, you got something to show us?
You want me to talk?
Yeah, I want you to talk briefly. You don't have to get
All
crazy.
right, so first off, I did that gummy so I'd be relaxed because I talk too much when I'm nervous, so.
All right, we'll cut you off.
Yeah. My name is Mark. I own Top Stitch Aviation Upholstery, and it's been an interesting career. Look at all you wonderful faces. I started in 1979. It was March 17th, and I needed a job. And a guy gave me a chance, and I took off with it. I started my own business 3 years later. But how I really got my start in my little town called Elmira was I was about 7 maybe, and those G.I. Joe action figures. And I had my little sister Lori, and she had her Barbie dolls. And those action figures always had military, stuff. And I thought that was cool, and she thought it was cool, but I wanted something different. So on the corner of where I lived was a woman by the name of Bernice Kimiotek. She was a seamstress, and she had twin daughters that they all lived in this sewing shop on the corner. And they had it set up so there was a curtain. And I remember my sisters would walk me to school, and I'd go in there and they'd wait for him and just Jesus. And I'm looking around all these machines and stuff she's working on. I thought it was kind of neat. But I still wanted something different for my action figures. I don't want to call them dolls because, they really are. But anyway, I told Bernice one day that, I really wanted to see if she could help me. And she taught me how to draw out for a t-shirt and boxer shorts and some other stuff, and then sew it together by hand with a needle and thread. And that's how I really got my start in sewing. And I was 10, maybe. So my other biggest thing was NASA. I had the astronauts all over my wall. My mom, she used to just bitch all the time about the stuff I'd be hanging on the wall for different things. Sorry, I had to swear. Quarter drawer or something. I mean, that's a real thing. So anyway, the space thing came to fruit with me one day when I was living in Houston, because up to that point I'd only worked on really expensive airplanes. Multi-million-dollar aircraft, and I thought, well, I'm going to Houston. Can't hurt, right? There's the Johnson Space Center there, but I didn't do it. But I just thought it'd be crazy to try to approach them. But I got a foreman's job in an upholstery shop, and I had to get the machines tuned up. They were so bad. The machines are horrible. And so I called this guy who'd been doing the business for, I don't know, ever. And talking with him. He was putting a brake on one of the machines and was hauling right along with no brake. I said, how do you do that? So anyway, he fixed this machine and talked with him a bit. And he said, you ever want to get into NASA? I know a guy. I said, you know a guy? He goes, yeah, I know a guy. And so I said, well, sure, why not? So he gave me the guy's phone number, and I just threw it in my glove box. Never paid attention to it. I figured the chances of that ever happening is slim to none. And the gods, I don't know, something happened. I decided to call the guy just for shits and grins. And he said, send me your resume, which I didn't do for a month. And when I finally did, I called him up and said, geez, can I still send you that? He goes, sure, please do. So I did. And then 2 weeks later, he gives me a call and said, do you want to have coffee? And we couldn't find a coffee shop that was open at Clear Lake, Texas, right outside of Houston. So he took me to this Johnson Space Center and he gave me a tour, and I was just blown away. I just couldn't believe I was walking in the Hall of Giants. Men that worked there, they put men on the moon, and they want to hire me.
Oh,
So they had the Spot project. They showed me their other existing things. They had the rover and all these things that they're playing with. And I'm looking at the upholstery right off the bat. I don't care what's around me. I'm looking at this. I'm in this egg-shaped thing, and they got this upholstery in there that's got these big welts on them, and you know they're just nasty from years of people abusing them, and real nasty foam that was collapsing. No substance to it. And I said, so what do you want me to do? And then he takes me over to this egg, and I mean literally it was an egg. He goes, I want you to upholster this. I said, how so? And he goes, well, we got to have curtains, we got to have flooring, we got to have cushions. Most important, cushions. So this is one of my cushions that I used as a demo to show him what I could do with the scene, because the important thing was that the astronauts in spacesuits did not get jammed up on seams and snagged and everything. So they wanted it as smooth as possible. So, and inside here is a magnet, because the curtains that I made had to come down, and they had magnets, and they would lock onto this magnet. And everything was on this. It was on this weird coil. They're really cool, but you could throw them across the floor, and they would just go and line up and snap together. It was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. So this company makes just incredible magnets. But this is the cushion, and that's a high density aircraft foam that's inside there with everything on that thing. You could set a torch to that, and it's not supposed to burn, but I appreciate if you didn't. So. But I was working with astronauts. I was working with rocket scientists. I was working with jet pilots. I was just in my glory. Every day I went to work with a smile on my face, and every day I'd come out of there kicking myself in the butt because I had to leave. It was just an amazing adventure. And it was an 11-month contract. They paid me very well. And once it was done, it was it. I was done. I mean, they I don't even know. They tested it. I got some participation trophy. Everybody gets one of them, a little plaque, and a group photo, which was really cool. But I enjoyed my time there, and that was the apex of my career. But I have worked on some of the most fabulous things. When I had my shop in New York, I had it for 20 years. I closed it in 2000 to go out west. But up to that point, I had been hustling Corning Incorporated, doing some projects for them on their warehousing and stuff. I was hustling American LaFrance fire trucks. I'm sure you've heard of them. I had stole the work from the people they had working there because they found them falling asleep on the job. And so they needed someone to replace them. And I stepped up, and my company and we went to town. So I had a $200,000-$300,000 fire truck, which is amazing at that time. And I had started my shop in '83, but I had these fire trucks sitting there in '84. And most of you ladies probably weren't even born yet. And I'm up there sewing up there all these cushions and covers. But I'm a hands-on guy, always have been. I've owned my shop, but I've been working. If I couldn't do it, I wouldn't expect my men to do it. So I always made sure they got paid first, which was really tough some days. Oh my God, but they were important to me. I didn't want to lose them. So I can tell you right now, honestly, pay your help. Pay them first. Let them know they're important, because it is important. And then, but from there, I got into aviation. I left my shop. I closed it up in 2000. Everything was going crazy. I had an opportunity to work either at this fashion company that made ladies lingerie, which really had my attention, or work in SBA, Santa Barbara Aircraft, and work on these beautiful 737 corporate jets. And they come completely hollow except for the flight controls. So they got 2 pilot seats. And then you're looking down this cavernous pen that's empty, all these wires and stuff hanging. And we made it into you're talking on the news lately is about a flying palace. these were flying Winnebagos. They were really, really nice, but they weren't all gold and, whatever else they're doing now. But it was an ideal situation, and I loved it. It was like a fish to water. I didn't want to leave. I just stayed right there and worked as much overtime as I could. They were paying very well, and I was living in Santa Barbara. I went to lunch. I only had to go 5 minutes down to the beach and be watching the seals and the Santa Barbara volleyball team. So there was interesting things all along. But I just kind of went along with the universe. I mean, I never really ever planned anything that I had done, and by the grace of God, or I don't know, it's just been very fortunate. But I've never, in all this time, honestly worked a day in my life. No matter what I've worked on, I've always had that feeling that what I'm doing is important. Because everybody wants to leave something behind. I'm leaving behind a bunch of dead cows. I mean, they went from flat dead cows, right, where they're laid out on a bench, and then you make them into 3D dead cows. I work with a lot of leather, and I don't know if you've ever seen any of the YouTube videos on how they make leather and they thin it.
Oh no.
Yeah, they're horrible. They're horrible. But honestly, the vegan leather doesn't work. It doesn't last. So if you use it, you're throwing away your customers' money, and they're going to come back at you. So, I mean, if you want leather, do the leather. Don't put your foot around. That there is Ultra Leather, which is a really fine product made by Tapas Corporation up in New York. And it comes in a wide variety of colors. Now, Sombrella also has put out some flame retardant materials that may be handy for some of your projects. I don't know. But is that a winer? You got wine over there that you brought her own stash?
Applesauce. It's my diabetic.
I just got this wine over here that I want to go bad, so you guys got to drink up.
Right now, you coughing. Don't look at me.
Honestly, in reality, it's always been good for me sewing. So that spark started with me with the T-shirts from like G.I. Joe's, and it just blossomed into something that I never expected. But once I got a piece of it, once I got that job, that guy gave me a chance, and the first thing he had me work on was some wooden stuff. And I got that out of the way. The next day, he had me putting a carpet in a Mercedes Benz, and it was like, I like this. This ain't so bad, and I stuck with it. And I worked hard. Within, like I said, 3 years, I started my own shop. He was disappointed that I was leaving him, but he's also happy to know that I was going to be able to go on my own. He felt he did what he's supposed to. Well, it was really cool. I had this the guy that he bought the shop from, because he had only owned it for maybe less than a year when he hired me. The guy that he bought it from, old Harry Stearns, great guy. He'd been doing this stuff for 50 years. And we're going back to 79. I started there. So back in the 20s, he was working on cars. And he was coming back every once in a while and helping me do stuff in the upholstery department. Because my boss, all he wanted to do was work on boats. He bought that so he could just do marine stuff. And the automotive that was coming from the hills for 50 years of experience of this guy that was helping me, it just took off too. And then we started getting contracts and keeping busy with different things. But when I started my shop, I took a few of them with me also, because I sold them in the first place. So some good, some bad, some ugly, but I survived and did what I had to do to cover my costs and my family and the expenses that go with all of life's wonderful needs. But I miss my hometown. I've traveled to many states. California was my first real venture away from home. And then from there, I went to Georgia, working for the Gulfstream Aerospace Company. And then from there, I went to Keystone Helicopter up in Philadelphia area. You were in Philadelphia? Yeah, I lived outside of Philly for a while in Lancaster. I worked at Sikorsky Helicopter doing VIPs. You want to see some really nice helicopters. I worked on the Queens. I worked on Guy in Charge. And then the Ives St. Lorenz, some beautiful helicopters. And come to find out, a lot of them own the airplanes I was working on back in Georgia. So, they're multi-million-dollar machines, and these guys own them. And they just, it's nobody's business to get in. I had this one guy, he was complaining. I was working on his carpet and his Learjet, and he was complaining because his wife wanted to cut the jet to take her poodle down to, down in Florida, Palm Beach. to get her poodle done. I'm thinking, well, it's not so bad, but you know, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars to fly that plane down there and back? Didn't matter. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I appreciate seeing all these smiling faces because it's good to know there's a community that can lean on a little bit. Because I'm already going to hit you up for some Dacron. Down the road. You seem to have a generous supply. I'll keep that in mind. And I'm admiring your table design because I'm right there. I got everything right there. I have not put the top on yet. I like the way you extended it out because it saves a lot of debris falling down on your tubes and stuff. And
Well, also, the thickness of it is just 3/4 inch plywood. Most
Yeah.
important, so it doesn't bow. And you can put clamps on it, the whole thing.
yeah, I see you don't have any screws through it. You got it mounted from underneath. Yeah, nice idea.
And it rolls.
Yeah, you gotta
See that way
have
on
wheels.
out here.
Wheels is great. I was thinking about putting wheels on. I've already made them 35 inches tall, so they're already kind of tall.
Well, mine at home didn't have wheels to begin with, and I cut the end of it off. So
Okay, so table building 101. Talk to this guy.
I got a plan. Thank you.
Yeah, don't watch those videos though alone. If you do, dead
I know,
cows.
right? That's fascinating.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you don't want me to, it's cool. I'll put it back.
Look at mine. Mine are red.
Oh no,
Look at that.
listen, parenting, I had to sacrifice my nail appointment, so don't look too close. I know. She had prom, so it's okay.
I only made it through one hand, so I have 2 different hand pillows. It's coming off it.
So I have three things. I wore one of my very first skirts that I made. It's a one seam skirt, YouTube University. So if it's crooked, don't look. And I did make it with a matching set, so I did use a pattern to make the matching set. I don't wear them together often, but I'm like, I need to start wearing the other one. Because it was beginning sewing, it's a little wonky, but we still wear it anyway. So this is my little rain gear outfit. Me and Buttons don't get along, so I don't ever finish my because it's like the thought of going back and putting buttons on. But this is my little baseball little shirt.
We can teach you how to put the buttons on
No.
with your sewing machine.
I can, but do I want to do it? We'll get there. I actually bought snaps. I still ain't done it. I want to get the fancy press that people do. I know. Well, so I don't have the fancy press thing. I have where you have to hammer it. Okay. Well, thank you. I'll be there this week. Right. I was gonna say, so I have press to go with it, but I haven't put it on. And then the piping took me out, so it's a little wonky, but I did do it, and we'll still wear it anyway. Who's gonna know? And it has little pockets. So this is a little fun. And I made this out of a curtain that I thrifted.
I have a bed sheet in that fabric, and it's in like a bunch of quilts that I've made like that same fabric.
Oh, really? Look, I was like, I need a pair of pants. No. So, right. So I have this. I also put Fabric Mart is one of my favorite places. I order way too much on there all the time. So I have similar fabric, like a denim type thing. So the idea was like to make pants and a jacket. So I ain't got that far. But I saw this. I was like, this would be cool practice. So this is my little fabric.
I love the brown piping.
Yeah.
Thank you. Look, I was gonna do orange, but I think the brown is so much better.
Something tells me that you need some trim around the bottom edge, just like little acorns.
Oh.
Don't give me no ideas. Look, we're done with this. Don't give me any ideas. I still got more, so we'll be thinking of other. So here's my jacket I was rushing to make before it got too warm, and it got too warm. So it's almost finished. I have to hand sew. Me and hand sewing. Yeah, I was gonna me and hand sewing. We get there. But look, this literally on the bus. So I have to finish the inside, and then the sleeves are a little bit too long, so I'm gonna take and cut them down a little bit and then finish that. But other than that, it's finished.
Why don't you just roll them back like a cup and show that line?
Yeah.
Oh.
That way you don't have to.
Yeah.
This is why we come, right?
Exactly. Someone else's brain.
Right.
What
But
material is that?
so this is upholstery fabric that I found. I want to say maybe Joann's. A long time ago. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I have this, and then I have a little bit left. So I don't know if I can squeeze a skirt or a pair of shorts or something out with it, as well as I have a matching set.
Pocket.
Yeah, so this was my first time doing welt pockets. Stress. But we did it. We did it, y'all. So I was so proud of myself because I was like, this is not gonna come out good at all. So it came out. The zipper's a little bit short, but after buying like 12 different zippers, because Joann's closing now, and I couldn't really source it. So it's a little shorter than what I wanted, but again, it's made. And then the detail is what I really liked about it. So this is a simplicity pattern. And the back where you can, I don't know if you can see, it's a seam all the way across. And that was really what I really liked about it.
Yeah, like a Western shirt.
Yes. And so I really love that detail. I thought it was really cool.
All the way down.
So it goes, and so when you make the pattern piece is the upper sleeve part and then the lower sleeve part. So it's really cool. That's what I really liked about it.
Great.
Huh?
Yeah, post the pattern.
Oh yeah, I definitely can. Yeah, I never know what pattern I'm working on. It was like, some people's like simplicity, blah blah blah. I don't know. It was cute. I made it. But yeah, so I definitely can. I have it at home. But yeah, so that's my little jacket. I don't know. Maybe it'll rain and I'll wear it, but we'll for next season. But yeah, so this is my little jacket that I'm almost finished making.
Oh, great
Well, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I have a really quick little one. So after all the snow days and the kids had to start bringing their iPads home, my daughter's in kindergarten. It came home in a Ziploc bag, gallon baggie, and I was like, "There's no way she's going to be keeping that. I mean, I get it, but there's no way she's going to be keeping that and carrying that to school every day. Like, it's going to fall out." So I made her this little bunny. Yep, with her sparkle because she sparkles and loves pink. So
Oh,
I made that little carrier for her.
Very cute.
And it's kind of quilted. I don't really quilt. Yes, I put her name on it too.
Oh, wonderful.
You
I put lines down it.
It wasn't just to hold it together.
Yes.
I claim lines as quilting.
Yeah.
Bleeding.
That's
Here,
quilting
I'm sorry,
line.
bleeding.
My God, so funny.
Cool.
All right, so anybody have anything else? Okay, so next month we're gonna do what did I say? Half a glass of wine. Like textiles and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna talk about all different kinds of fabric. We're gonna talk about sequins, girl.
I'm bringing it. Trust me.
Come on.
I got it.
But if there's any specific thing you guys like, what about this kind of fabric or that kind of fabric or whatever, throw us some comments in the Facebook page, and we collect those things.
Okay.
Because I'm on it.
Mhm.
Pay attention, because it's not about me; it's about y'all. What do y'all want? And next time, bring people. Tell everybody you know, because we just want to have fun and learn some stuff. I mean, because honestly, I didn't know
that
thing.
fabric's up for grabs too.
Yeah,
Sorry.
this is free
If
stuff.
you want any
I didn't know all
fabric,
that about Lisa, and I'm glad I do. I didn't know all that about Mark. I mean, come on. I didn't know all that. It's fun to share these things because life's too short. We got to make friends.
Yeah.
Because I don't do everything. I just do what I do. So if y'all do other things, and here you do it. I ain't doing it. So I'm not going to do my own airplane. I don't have an airplane. Yeah, call Mark that. Anyway,
And
Well,
I'll
it's
just
really
say,
cool
so
to
yeah,
be
so
working magazine.
I've been in a magazine, but not for that reason.
So yeah, with any meeting, and then I'm going to turn this off. But so with any meeting, I mean, feel free to bring something to share. Bring munchies if you want, and feel free to get it at any time too. And then if you ever have any fabric that you want out of your space, it's not necessarily a swap, so you can't leave it here. Like you have to take it home if no one else takes it. But feel free to bring fabric or notions or whatever if you want to swap and want things out of your house. Yeah, cool. But yeah. Enjoy. We have a little bit of time left.
Now I'm gonna-
Oh yeah.
I don't have to worry about my